accept it if you're happy with that. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so here we are, Wednesday morning. This is Social Enterprise Mark CIC, and it's our first coffee morning. So we really wanted to extend an open invitation to some people who are our mark holders and other people who may have an interest in social enterprise and also in the accreditation of social enterprises through our processes. And we've got Rachel, who's the Business Development Manager at Social Enterprise Mark, up there in my top left corner, over there. And over in my top right corner, over there, I've got Lucy, who is our Managing Director. So they are absolutely available and would very much welcome any questions that you have, any thoughts about sort of how things are going with you, and we'll do some introductions in just a moment. It is a fairly informal session, so it's about shared conversation. That also means if you feel more comfortable, pop yourself on mute. If Amazon deliver an important package, please do feel free to go answer that door, because you don't want to leave one of those little cards that says, oh, you weren't in, sorry, we'll come back later. And obviously this is sort of a safe space in terms of sharing our conversations with each other, so that sort of listen and respect agenda, which I know everybody will be fully on board with. So we also have a chat function which is down the bottom. If you wish to add any information about yourself, maybe your LinkedIn profile link that people can pick up on, please do feel free to use that. It's kind of quite nice when we see that people are connecting across our networks. And if there's any other questions that you may have, we will be looking through the chat a little bit later to see if there's something that people have a burning issue with that we might be able to help with in terms of social enterprise definition of, whether it may be something about our accreditation, your experience of accreditation, that kind of thing, then please do feel free to use the chat. So I've introduced both Lucy and Rachel, but it's not all about us. This is about yourselves as well. And I'm hoping that in the final invite reminder about today's session, you might have picked up on bringing a prop with you. Hands up who's got a prop with them. We have, okay, all right then. So one of the things that we mentioned that we'll kind of do, and then perhaps you'd like to pick up on yourselves, is that we suggested bringing a prop with you, but it's really just about a reflection on your last week and maybe something positive that's kind of happened within that week. And sometimes we will like to kind of go, and this is it. This is kind of what it was. We did mention that maybe somebody might like to bring a football with them, but I'm not sure that we got the result that we all wanted on Sunday evening, sadly. So what I'd like to do is just kind of go round really, and perhaps if I ask sort of one of the team first of all, just kind of introduce yourself and your enterprise, tell us a couple of things about your enterprise, and if you've had a moment, just reflect on something that's been really sort of positive in your week. It could be personal, it could be business based, so that would be really lovely to have a bit more background in how things are going for you. So my link that I'm going to smoothly hand over to Lucy is that I've got my social enterprise coffee here, and it's Lucy coffee. So we're going that way. Over to Lucy, please.
I think I'm in a different order to you, Sally, so but thank you very much. And I didn't know about Lucy coffee. I'm not sure how good it will be. Hopefully it'll be all right. So yes, hello everybody. I'm really pleased to meet some of you, and I know I've met others of you before, so great to see you again. Hope you're enjoying the nice sunny, if you've got it, weather, but I think it's due to be a bit sunnier. So I'm the founding managing director of the Social Enterprise Mark. I don't know if Sally, whether you're planning to introduce yourself as well?
Yes, I'm going to come in last.
Yeah,
like
okay.
A laser focus at the end of the round.
Yeah, because Sally's is our newest member of the team, so it'd be great for you to hear a bit from her as well. The Social Enterprise Mark has been around for over 11 years now, and we celebrated our 10th birthday just before everything locked down, literally weeks before, and had a little celebration in London, which was our last hurrah, really, of meetings up, if you like. But that was a really great opportunity to meet lots of people, just from all over the place, friends from over the years, and just acquaintances. So it's good to see some new faces on this particular networking opportunity, the first informal one that we've done, as Sally said. I think I've got two positives, if I'm allowed to have two positives. First
Absolutely.
of all, yeah, we got into the SE 100 last Friday, which was really great, for the Social Enterprise Mark, along with a lot of other really great social enterprises. And the actual awardees are going to be announced on Friday. So keep an eye open for that, for those that actually have won in the certain categories, because I was judging in the resilience category. My prop is actually from yesterday, and it was a rather bizarre prop. It's an unlocked lock, with a safety pin on it, and it was from my chief executive's networking session, and I think it's to represent. He didn't actually explain. I think it's to represent the fact that we are becoming more unlocked, but we need a safety pin just in case. So, but it was really nice to have a meeting face to face with people, and it just makes such a difference from a networking point of view, just being able to see people and talk to people. So that's me.
Oh, thank you, Lucy. That's lovely. Yeah, great symbolism there, because it is that sort of a lot of people still very nervous about coming out of lockdown, whether it is sort of the choice of wearing a face covering still, but also for businesses, it's a bit of a sort of a transition time to go, am I still the same business? Do I still have the same markets? Have I still got the right products and services that meet that need? And for most of us here, looking at the social entrepreneur aspect of it and being social enterprises, as many of us are, is making sure that we've done that kind of responsiveness to the market. I think that was a bless you, Natasha. And making sure that that we are still fit for purpose, whilst retaining our value structure. So that's a great one. There's lots of conversation around that. So that's also sort of why we wanted a bit of a safe space that people can kind of go, actually, this has worked really well for me. Didn't expect business to boom in lockdown, but that's how I responded to it, and this is what's happened. But equally, there may well be people sort of within our group here today that are really quite nervous about unlocking their businesses, and their staff or their volunteers have concerns about that, as well as their customers and stakeholders, etc. So that'd be lovely if anything like that wants to come out through the sort of the shared conversation after introductions. That would be great. So I'm going to hand now that way. I have to do everything in reverse, a bit like a Zumba teacher at the front of class. Over to Rachel. You're positive, and hello to everybody.
Oh, thank you, Sally. Hi everyone, good morning. Some familiar faces and some new faces I see. So I'm Rachel Fell. I'm the Business Development Manager at Social Enterprise Mark, and soon to be leaving on maternity leave. Hence the lovely Sally, who will be covering my leave shortly from next week, actually. So it's really nice to have this event and have a bit of a social interaction before I do depart. Just because there's not just Mark holders joining us, just as a sort of brief introduction, and I thought it might be useful to define social enterprise. And we very much define it as a business that is trading for people and for planet, putting shareholders profit for the community, for people and planet, over and above shareholder profit. And my prop is actually a photo. So my positive is very similar to Lucy's. So it's about, again, you know, the really difficult year or year and a half almost that we've had. And I managed to go away this weekend, just gone, and mix with some friends and family. And it was the first time that our actual immediate family had all been together since pre-COVID. So for me, that was a really big positive, especially before obviously a new arrival joining my family as well. So it was quite a big deal to get away when we could. So I've just got a photo up on my phone, and
oh, how lovely.
some happy people actually cuddling, social interaction. So that was a really big positive for
Fantastic.
us, and hope and may it continue, hopefully.
Oh, lovely. Thank you very much indeed, Rachel. That's brilliant. And obviously, you know that the team all wish you immense luck as you go on maternity. And I'm so grateful that you've helped in terms of the last couple of weeks since I've joined the team, but I'll come back to that. Anybody else like to bring their sort of positive from the last week and say just a little bit about themselves or their enterprise?
Sure, I'll introduce myself.
Thank you.
I've just been so fun, so I'm not looking my best. I wasn't expecting it to be recorded, but that's absolutely fine. So anyway, I'm Natasha, and I work for a company called Kaizen Change for Good, a KIC. Kaizen means it's a business improvement concept that means step-by-step continuous improvement. And we became a KIC last year, kind of in response to the pandemic, or in a way, but also because I wanted to really communicate to my stakeholders that I'm here to do good and not for profit. I thought that wasn't very clear in my marketing previously, so I changed. I've been established for 10 years, changed to a KIC last year. I'm in the investment space, social investment space, around investment readiness. So I help groups to get investment ready, to access finance and funding. So really working with social investors. As part of that, I'm also a social value accredited practitioner, an advanced practitioner, and really in the SROI evaluation space as well. Last year, in response to the pandemic, I pivoted a little bit and established a workplace wellbeing product. I really put myself in the shoes of social enterprises, and how are people feeling, the workers on the ground, coping with the pandemic themselves, as well as trying to help people in the community and all of the struggle and strife there. And set up this new service around meditation, which is my skill. I'm really good at meditation and helping people to clear their mind, relax, let go, and just access energy. I'm a martial artist, I'm a yogi, and I just love all of that space. So my little prop, I guess, is this book, which is amazing, and I would recommend it. It's called Clarity by Jamie Smart. He runs incredible. He's got quite a few free resources, but he is expensive as well. But he helps you to basically, this is clear mind, better performance, bigger results, because there's just so much noise, and there's just so much going on. It's just nice to find that space where you can clear the way and have your vision and use your power and your energy to bring about transformation and change. And that's kind of in the space that I'm in, and also that's the kind of some of those resources that I access. I'm here to really meet you, introduce myself, but also to find out about the Mark, because in my networks, I'm East Midlands based. I do a lot of promotion, talk to a lot of social enterprises, so I want to really help them to achieve that Mark. And also to access it myself, to become an accredited social enterprise. So yeah, I think that sums me up, I think.
Thank you. Is there a positive that you'd like to bring, sort of just something, or is it the run? Is that the positive? I got up and I went running this morning, because that's a good positive.
No, okay, so one of my clients, a small BME group in the heart of a deprived area, got through to the second stage of the Enterprise Development Fund. And yes, I'm really pleased about that. Social enterprise, helping them to set up their trading activities so they're less reliant on grant funding. So that's my success this week, I think.
Fantastic. Because I think that's quite a hard shift at the moment, isn't it? Where social enterprises are trading businesses, because unless we can make the profit, we can't do the good stuff with the profit. Yeah. But obviously, everything that's happened with COVID, there's an awful lot of social enterprises that have gone back to being a little bit grant reliant, and that's a huge transition, especially for quite early start, the sort of the 2 years not quite sorted out their sustainability, and then they've almost spent as long in lockdown and perhaps reduced trading, or even dormant. So I think that's just going to be such a key thing across the sector as we are all opening up. So thank you very much for that, Natasha, and really interesting and exciting sort of developments, obviously, for your business. So that sounds great.
That's good. Claire Short has been to my meditations, and she's really helped, said some good words. So really thank you for that. So, and well, they're free. I run them 4:30 till 5 on a Wednesday, free to social enterprises. So feel free to join.
Perhaps if you've got a link or anything, perhaps pop that into the chat and we can pick that up. Thank you very much. So, okay, it's kind of who would like to go next? Jess or Patricia or Sanawar, perhaps?
Yeah, I'll go.
Thank you, Jess.
So my name's Jess, and I'm a crowdfunding consultant. So I help organizations run successful crowdfunding campaigns. And most of them are either like social enterprises or social impact businesses or charities. My positive of the week is that both of my clients smashed their targets this week. Yes. One of them being this like absolutely amazing, super down-to-earth couple that have like a severely disabled child aged 7, only like a 13% chance that she would live after 1 year old, and she's 7, and then a 5-year-old child too, and they've never been on holiday together. And they basically the husband like had to give up his job at the beginning COVID because they were so vulnerable, and he decided do you know what, I'm going to make my dreams a reality, and my dream is to convert a camper van into being an accessible camper van that kids with disabilities and their families can go on holiday. So we can go on holiday and we can rent it out so other families can go on holiday in this situation. They took my crowdfunding course and they had so many issues. In the last month alone, they only had 5 days when they weren't isolating, because like bubbles popped here with COVID, over there COVID, the husband's mum got terminally ill in Spain, so he had to go over there, then come back and quarantine. And they hit their target within like 24 hours. They literally, I had a call with them and they burst into tears crying because they didn't expect it. They're only 1 week in and they've already, their target was 18 grand. They're now on about £25,000. And now they are just building the rest of the money, because they already can now convert the camper van with the money. Now they're building a pot to be able to subsidize the disabled families' holidays, so give away holidays for much cheaper and free with the extra money that's coming in, but also taking a step back from the crowdfunding so they can actually spend time with their kids that they didn't think that they would be having over this next week. So that one I'm so proud of them for. Yeah. And the other one is sustainable swimwear. It's made from this fabric that's created from plastics found in the oceans. And she is a complete female solopreneur, left working in the fashion industry to set it up again, beginning of original COVID. Ended up getting stuck in Malaysia because her boyfriend was teaching English out there, and had to run the whole campaign from Malaysia. She came to all my meetings, which for her were 11 p.m. at night every Tuesday. For us, they're like 4 p.m. And the worst thing again, Malaysia went into an even bigger lockdown, and her like models for the swimwear got separated from her because you couldn't even cross dividing lines of towns or whatever in Malaysia. She had to model the swimwear for her own campaign with like her boyfriend taking the photos. I was like, woman, I am so proud of you. I would never do that. And so like you cannot really see her face on the photos, you know, her hair's kind of like to the side. Because imagine like I can't imagine going out in a bikini and like being like, oh, buy my bikini, I'm wearing it. And again, like she smashed her target this week, and I'm just so proud of the amount of work that she put into it as well. And again, just that both of them really like triumphed over the issues that arose.
I think that's amazing, because that resilience that we've all had to really dig deep on is so key, and just kind of going, no, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to kind of let this fail at the first hurdle kind of thing. That's just fantastic. And having sort of worked with social enterprises running crowdfunding campaigns is so important, because people think, oh, I'll pop a crowdfunding page up and, you know, the rest is history. You know, is it Field of Dreams? You know, they will come. No, they won't. It's so important to actually get that story right. And they've obviously gone for those advocates, but that emotional connection with your clients, and obviously their story. And I think one of those things coming from being a marketeer as well within the social enterprise space, being able to tell our story and be that authentic self is just really, really key. So that sounds like some great advice, and just what a fabulous week. That's amazing.
Thanks.
Oh, so Patricia, I wonder, would you like to go next?
Hi, obviously my name is Patricia. I'm a financial therapist. I created my social enterprise in 2005 when I used to teach financial literacy, I still do, and household budgets and that kind of thing. And I used to do business startups. But since the pandemic, I've pivoted to doing only Zoom meetings, but I'm also now a financial therapist, which I'm using counselling skills and money and household budgets together to teach people how to budget and also change their money mindsets on how they spend and why they do. And that's what I do.
Wow, amazing. And have you got a sort of positive this week? Because for me, even just reflecting on what you've described of your business, so it's great that you've done that kind of adaptation that was so needed to respond to sort of the COVID situation. But we are all sensitive about money, aren't we? And I think none of us would actually like to admit, oh, I'm not quite as good with my money and my budgeting as I'd like to be. And that's just across all areas of society. You know, we all have I think a strong sensitivity around money. So really interesting kind of taking that counselling approach almost to kind of break through some of those barriers that people have, and that to take away that worry and the mental health impact of I'm not opening the envelopes and I'm hiding those in a drawer, which can happen both personally and very much for business. I think my positive for this week and also forever really is basically that you can come and see me, and it's no judgment, and it's also person-centered counselling skills being used here too. So it's almost like a therapy session really, and it gives people time, they say, to open up and have a real honest discussion about their money and how they deal with their money, but there's no judgment at all. And we then work out how they're going to go forward in their life, what they want to do. We look at their dreams, where they want to be in the future, and then how to get there. So yes, that's my positive really, is the fact that I am actually helping people to do that. And really, I think that's because sorry, Natasha.
I was just going to join in the conversation and just say that's like really amazing work, Patricia. I did an evaluation of Clockwise Credit Union, and they obviously help people with budgeting and the finances and all of that. And there was evidence. I did a full accredited, assured evaluation that financial support and advice around literacy directly impacts on mental health. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. I found evidence of it from talking to stakeholders. It is incredible. So hats off and well done.
Thanks. I've worked with different agencies. I've worked with Book of Mind and different agencies like that as well. So it does help. It really does. To sort of like help discuss money and how to budget and how to make ends meet, and different ways of doing that. Everyone's have a different way. So I try to help them personalize budgets and things. Yeah.
Lovely. So Sanwar, that leaves yourself ahead of me doing my kind of hello introduction and positive. Are you okay to share a little bit about yourself and your enterprise? Can you hear us, Sanwar? You're on mute.
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry, my Wi-Fi just dropped a few minutes ago. I'm Sanwar from City University of London. I'm a professor in the School of Mathematics, Computer Science and Engineering. And we have just, the good thing is that I have been going to my office once, twice a week, which is absolutely something new after 18 months.
Yes.
And meeting some of the colleagues. The not so good thing is that one of our colleagues last Monday, he contracted, was tested positive for COVID. So today is my 10th day of self-isolation at home. So I have not been to the university. I will most probably go on Friday. He's okay, double vaccinated, so it's not that difficult for him. So some of us, about 4 or 5 of us, have been self-isolating at home. The bigger good thing is that you most probably know we have a new president, started 2 weeks ago, and the whole new SLT. I think Lucy is aware that we have been developing our civic strategy for last 18 months. I was one of the deputy co-chairs for that group. And we have a draft strategy now. And in terms of the Enterprise Mark, we are heading towards the implementation now. Once the term starts in September, we are going to work forward from where the draft strategy is. So things will start to fall in place, hopefully. And our new president is very keen also in the civic aspect of the university and the strategy.
Wonderful, because you have a couple of graduate courses, don't you, in social entrepreneurship, and you also have quite a strong research area across the university, am I right, in terms of supporting the sort of the civic aspect of the university's aims?
Absolutely. I actually I was responsible for the partnership whole idea. So we have a lot of activities going on, which we, not all of us knew about until we had a long spreadsheet with lots of different activities. So it is true, we have quite a few activities, both in research and in social, through the business school, through our school, STEM subjects we have in our school. So I think we also work very closely with the Islington Council, most probably you know, together with London Met and Islington Council and City. I think we are the first partners involving the local council and 2 universities. We support the City of London Academy, Islington. I'm one of their governors. We also work with the Upward Bound project. I don't know whether you know about. This is the City and Islington project to support the widening participation umbrella school kids. We provide our premises within the university for them. And London Met is doing a lot of work with this group of students. very happy. We are doing quite a few things, but we will be, I think, with the strategy, will be more focused and perhaps try to be more networked with the other groups.
Thank you. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Closely, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. So it's really great to hear that, Sanawar. I was thinking it would be good to plug you into our universities network and have a further conversation with you after this, because that sounds like really good news and really good progress within the university now that you've got your new president, and you know, things are moving on with so that would be great.
Happy to do so. Happy to be in the network.
Thank you. Wonderful. So that's going to kind of go round full circle and back to me. So I've got a few sort of good things that have happened over the last week. So it's my first full week working with Rachel on handover and getting to know the team more. So that was brilliant. It was lovely that obviously Social Enterprise Mark was included in the SE 100 listing. So, you know, that's a fantastic achievement for all of those 100 social enterprises and the aspiring SE 100. So that's fabulous. And I guess it's interesting. I follow yourself, Sanawar, from the university. So this is my prop. Get it positioned right. So if you can read the quote on that. So it's kind of a quote that probably many of you might have actually seen before. But this mug was given to me by my youngest daughter, probably close to about 10 years ago, when life was going through a little bit of a troublesome spot. And she last week graduated from the University of Brighton with a first honours. So that is my kind of like, you know, amazing, you know, to have that. I'm going to fill it up with Social Enterprise coffee very shortly. But also it reminds me that we've got a whole new generation of young people coming into the employment market, and it's our responsibility, isn't it, as employers and businesses, enterprises that are trading in terms of how we do that nurture piece and open up those opportunities for young people to come into the world of work. And I think one of the things that Lucy, Rachel and I were talking about earlier this week was actually the importance of how we can actually connect with enterprises, and the fact that they will often have wider recruitment policies. So not everybody is fortunate to have a degree. Some people really come from quite challenging backgrounds and have had a number of complex issues. So we talked a little bit about disability, we've talked about mental health, obviously the social economics as well for families. And that's where I think the social enterprise sector really comes into its own as well, and that linking with educational institutions, whether it's HEs, whether it's FEs, or right down into schools, showing young people that there are options. You know, it's not go and work at, you know, the local Amazon warehouse, that's a great job, but actually if you want to set up your own window cleaning business, that's also fine. And how we kind of open up all of that, the future, if you like, for this next generation of young people coming into the workplace. And social enterprise has an absolute stake in that, I think. So I wonder, really sort of, there's lots of positives, I get the sense from the whole group, in terms of actually, although COVID has been tough for many of us, for all of us in very different ways, but it sounds as though it's quite positive, and that kind of reflects back on the Social Enterprise Mark survey that we did recently. So Lucy, did you any sort of key highlights that you found in the survey that you think maybe would be particularly of interest to the group, and kind of the reflections on COVID?
Yeah, I mean, actually, if people have feedback on particularly the government response to COVID, please send me your thoughts, because I gave evidence to the all-party parliamentary group who are running a survey about how how the response from the government to social enterprises could have been improved. So I gave some evidence last week, and I have another session, I think it's in October, but I've been asked if I want to submit written evidence, which I will be doing, because I could only say so much in 5 minutes and got questioned on topics that I perhaps would have wanted to expand on. So if anybody has got thoughts about how the government responded, then please do send me them, whether that's about funding, whether that's about, the fact that you couldn't access support that you should have had, etc. So that's one thing that I would say. The other thing is that from our survey, we definitely had a reflection that social enterprises were generally positive about their outcome, and this reflects the same sort of picture that that social enterprises were more responsive in the time of COVID and more successful on the whole. But as we know, things are changing all of the time. So we don't want to sit on our laurels. And, as Sally has said, there's been a number of grants, etc., that are out there, and we don't quite know how social enterprises are going to be able to respond once some of those support mechanisms are released. So, if you've got some thoughts about that, give me a shout. And I was also thinking, since there are a number of people here that are not mark holders, it would be good if we could just do a quick rundown, because it sounds like people have some questions about what our products are and whether they qualify and all that kind of thing.
And I think that absolutely perfect. So I'm going to hand over to Rachel in a moment, because I think there is a real concern, isn't there, with obviously things like Northern Ireland came out this week with their social value policy for their contracts. So public sector contracting, and Sanawar, obviously the university particularly, would be considered sort of in this arena. So issuing out contracts and looking at that social value mark. So it's 10%, and a lot of organisations moving up closer to the 20% of social value within contract tenders. So anybody working either in commissioning tenders, like universities, could be local authorities, it could be blue light services, etc., will be asking around that social value and what is your company legal structure. And I think it's really, really important in how we are looking to evidence that. And equally, if you are looking to reply to tenders or opportunities for the smaller contracts with local authorities, is being able to put that stamp on, I am a social enterprise, this is what I do, this is my community of benefit, and here is the evidence. And part of that evidencing being able to sort of say, I've been through a robust accreditation process, and I'm happy and proud to have that social enterprise mark stamp against my business. It kind of, everything that adds another point on your application, or adds to your unique selling point as an individual sort of socially good business. So Rachel, would you be able to sort of run people through that a little bit, perhaps, please?
Yeah, of course, happy to. It might be useful to share some slides as well, if people are happy for me to do that. So can you see that okay?
That's perfect for me, thank you. I hope everybody else has got the same view.
Yeah, so as sort of Sally and Lucy have touched upon, obviously we're an accreditation body for social enterprise, and we're very much about supporting social enterprises on their journey to becoming better social enterprises and improving their practices. So we work with aspiring social enterprises. So our main product is the social enterprise mark. That's the middle logo there on the right hand of your screen, and that was our first accreditation, developed sort of 11 years ago now. And it was very much because there was a frustration in the sector that There's no sort of one set definition for social enterprise. So we came about with a mandate from the sectors, a collection of organisations, and created our criteria of what a social enterprise looks like. And our whole assessment process is overseen by an independent accreditation panel as well. And they oversee all our accreditations. I've got on the screen here our 3 main ones. So we've got our aspiring social enterprise, which is very much for those new start social enterprises aspiring to reach that main social enterprise accreditation level. So they might perhaps not yet be what we say is trade income dependent. They still might be grant reliant, you know, sort of getting going with their business, but they've still got their clear social or environmental objectives in place. So they're a registered business, so independent. They still dedicate their profits to social purposes, and of course that can be back into their business. And also we look at an asset lock clause in place as well. So if the company was to dissolve, any residual assets would be distributed to social aims. And then so we support those organisations upwards to achieve the social enterprise mark, and that is the main sort of, you've been approved as a social enterprise. We're able to verify your social enterprise credentials, and there's 2 additional criteria to get to that stage. So that's being able to evidence that the majority of your income is through traded sources of income. So not grant reliant anymore, or donations, for instance. And you're also able to demonstrate the social impact that you've achieved. So again, for the aspiring, they've not yet sort of got that history, usually that the background yet to prove what they've done. So by the time you've achieved the social enterprise mark level, you're able to start to evidence and give examples of the brilliant things that you've done. And then we've also got a gold mark accreditation for social enterprise excellence. So it's often those that have been in the sort of sector for some time, not always, but those that are not just, you know, able to prove that the social enterprise, but they're able to go through this robust assessment process, and we look in much more in depth into their operations. So for examples, we've got there that they've got effective stakeholder engagement, they've got really good sort of business policies in place, and we look much more in depth in their social impact reporting as well. When we sent out the invite to the coffee morning, we asked if anyone's got any sort of questions in advance, and one of them was about sole traders. So I've just put a note on the bottom there that unfortunately sole traders wouldn't be eligible for our accreditations, and the reason why that is because they're not a registered business under any authority that can sort of, you know, oversee the legal sides of things. So there's no constitution there for us to check evidence of them operating as a social enterprise. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that at all, Lucy? I'll do a quick sort of overview of our marks, but
I suppose it's also a bit about the process as well, Rach, which I'm sure you're just about to go into. So yeah.
Yeah, so if you're interested in applying, we've got a register your interest form on our website, and it's just submitting your basic details. So we've got your contact details, but I have put our email addresses in the chat there as well. So any questions at all about your own eligibility, just drop us an email. But generally, once we've got those basic details, we'll have a telephone chat with you to find out more about your business and where you sit against our criteria, sort of what accreditation you might sort of be matching against. And then if we sort of find that you're on the pathway towards achieving one of those, we can start to pull together information for your application. It's quite a straightforward process because a lot of the evidence we require we can find in the public domain. So for instance, on Companies House, your company accounts, what we would need for you to submit for the social enterprise mark level, at least that level, is some evidence of social impact, and we've got a set of questions that we send you to complete for that. But otherwise it's not a very onerous process. We do a lot of the work ourselves, and for that reason we do invoice up front of any assessment work, and the license fee is, for the aspiring level, it's set at £150 plus VAT, no matter the size of the organisation. And then for the SEM level, social enterprise mark level, it starts from £250 is our annual licence fee, and it's tiered based on a company turnover. So there's various levels there. I can link to our fees in just a moment. And so once payments received, we finalise your application, send that off for assessment to the assessment team to look over. And yeah, so hopefully they come back and approve you, straightforward. But if there are any sort of further evidence we need, or any queries that we have that's come up, the team are really supportive. They'll come back and talk to you and work with you a bit more until you're ready to be approved. So it's not a sort of straightforward yes and no, you've not achieved it. We do very much work with you. We're a small team, really friendly, I'd like to say, and supportive, and the whole process from the moment you inquire to the moment you're working with us as a mark holder.
Thank you, Rachel. That was brilliant. Is there anybody got any sort of particular questions? I know Natasha, you were saying that certainly becoming a mark holder is something. How do you think that becoming a mark holder would specifically benefit your CIC?
Definitely. I did have a couple of questions. How many organisations have got the mark? And is it recognised in government procurement? I've got three questions actually. Is it recognised when tendering? Because I know that, you know, there's work on social value. And do you have those links with social value? I assume you have the links with Social Value UK, because obviously the social objectives bit and the stakeholder engagement's like the crucial bit that I'm really interested in as well. So I just had those three questions, if possible.
Okay, Lucy or Rachel, who would like to take that?
Well, maybe I'll just do the one on government recognition, shall I? I might have to repeat them all again, but anyway, so yeah, the one on government recognition, it's a difficult one, this, and yes, we do. That was one of your other questions, wasn't it, about Social Value UK? Social Value UK are one of our key partners, and we do work with them quite closely. And in fact, we've been working with them over this idea of the coffee morning, because they run their own coffee morning. So if it's about generic social value, then we would always refer people on to Social Value UK, because that's where their particular expertise is. However, we're about more than just social value, and you being an expert in this area, I'm sure you're more than aware. We're about the credibility of social enterprise as well. And one of the challenges we actually have is the government is very agnostic about legal structure and about the type of business. So we are really clear that we think that social enterprise is the best model, because, especially for delivery of government contracts, because you're reinvesting the profit back in. So you know, if you look at our stakeholder survey, people have been using the social enterprise mark as part of their evidence, but there is no formal recognition process. And if you go to the government, they will say, we do not formally recognise any certifications, because they've moved away from that in their wisdom. So it is added credibility, and it is you know, obviously added into that mix, and our social enterprise mark holders are using it in that way. And we have some stats in our social impact survey that show that they have been using that successfully, particularly, I would say, in some of the healthcare settings, like the out-of-hours GP providers, where they are, coming in, and that is part of their USP. We are bona fide social enterprises providing out-of-hours provision, and that's quite an important message to their commissioners. So there's that aspect to it as well. The other area, which we haven't talked about, where we have sort of talked about formal recognition, is where we've developed a specific mark for social enterprises that are working in the disability field. And we've been leading work with DWP on that. So that is social enterprises that primarily employ disabled people. But again, it will not be a formal recognition of the mark, but it will be recognition of what goes behind the mark, in order to be able to show that the social value and the good practice in those industries and those organisations is fulfilled. So hopefully that answers at least two of your questions. What was your first one again? I've forgotten.
It was about the numbers, I think.
Oh yeah, numbers. Yeah, Rachel can probably answer that one.
Yeah, so we've got approximately 150 accredited mark holders, and that's across the range of our marks. Majority of those are the social enterprise mark holders, and some of those are international holders as well, because it's available overseas.
And I think that's a really important point, isn't it? Is that it's not something that is insular in terms of gaining traction about being an accredited social enterprise. It's very much about that inclusion across the whole sector. And I think that's really key as to why we have the 3 tiers at the moment, because we recognise that early start social enterprises are still sort of, getting through those first couple of years of trading as a social enterprise. And it was lovely that actually, Natasha, part of your response to COVID was to kind of go, do you know what, trading 10 years, it's now the right time for me to become a KIC and join the 25,000 registered KICs in the country. But there are obviously a number of different legal structures that can be included in the social enterprise accreditation. So KIC is kind of becoming more understood, a bit like limited company or sole trader, but there is so much more to the sector as well. And that's why I think the accreditation and keeping it a robust methodology, whilst not being overly burdensome, but that robustness to make sure that we don't compromise on actually, whether you're a Friends Providential or a CIO or whatever, that actually we do maintain those standards around social enterprise, and then gaining traction in things like particularly public sector contracting. So it's great that we've got the Social Value Act and that's being levered, that hasn't gone away, it's cross-party. But obviously, new governments come in and sort of there are different nuances around the conversation. So that's also why it's really important and really beneficial to us to have somebody of Lucy's level up there pitching into that sort of political conversation and influencing. So I think that's one of the really good things about Social Enterprise Mark, is that it does go sort of top down and bottom up, which is really important. We want to grow, and it's great seeing new startup entrepreneurs looking at social entrepreneurship as actually part of their options, not just sole trader limited company. But we probably need to do more and more work in that area of co-production when tenders are being put together by procurement departments and service sort of heads of service in those public sector organisations, because obviously in terms of that contracting, that cascades down. If they don't ask the question, it can be difficult to put your reply in. So it's really important to look at those quality questions, the social value questions, and get your pitch in there. And that's where you put your status, your mark, your community of benefit, and your evidencing. And that social impact evidencing is what we look at as well. And as Rachel kindly said, it's how we also work with you to give that sort of support and advice and guidance about how that can be improved and different areas to be captured, and actually make sure that evidencing of social impact is robust within your organisations.
Yeah, because a lot of organisations, they don't really, the reporting on social impact needs development, so to speak. Yes. I mean, even in the annual reports and accounts, having that template of being accountable and transparent as well. No, that's really brilliant. I'm definitely going to look at applying myself, but also promoting it locally within my networks. I can't believe how cheap it is. I was expecting it to be like £2,000 or something, and I'm like, it's just really, really good to have that stamp and accreditation, and just for such a low price is really good. So really good.
But making it accessible for the market, because obviously across the social enterprise sector, many of the organisations fit within that sort of micro entrepreneur SME startup. So we need to, and we have a founding belief to try and make it accessible, both in terms of robustness, complexity of that sort of check and test that we do as part of the process, but also to encourage people that it is something that they can see for their own enterprise, their own social enterprise.
Amazing. So, thank you very much. I'm going to have to slip off now. Amazing to meet you, and definitely, I'll be in touch again. Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you, lovely. Natasha.
See you later.
Has anybody got any last questions that they, so Patricia or Sanawar, anything at all? Because obviously we are at time, and I'm mindful that we all have busy days as well. So, but your space, if there's any sort of final reflections perhaps on this morning, or kind of what we're going to do the week ahead, in terms of kind of like, right, that's the thing I'm going to look at, that's the thing I'm going to kind of change, adapt in my own business or my language kind of thing, in terms of talking about social enterprise.
I think the hardest thing is the social impact, measuring social impact. It always has been, and I think it always will be, really. It's a difficult thing to measure, especially if you're doing a social enterprise. It's the soft side of social.
Yeah,
it's really hard to measure it.
I totally agree with you, Patricia, and that's why with us it's more about articulating your social impact rather than measuring it. Because I think the measurement bit, I mean, it's great if you can measure the bits that can be measured, but it's like the holy grail, isn't it? How you measure it, all of this. And I do sometimes think we become a little bit numbers obsessed. And there is a bit of a turning of the tide, I think, on that front, with the realization that, some of these methodologies are a little bit spurious.
Absolutely. And I think it's, as part of a social enterprise, it's really hard to measure it. So I think people should be put off from applying, because you have to do that, because it's notoriously hard to do anyway.
Yeah.
I think for ourselves, we're looking at not just anecdotal light touch, but obviously it's a start point to help you ask those questions internally within your organisation and reflect on what social value is. So, if you take on, for example, apprentices, that's social value. But is there a weighting between an apprentice that comes from a leafy sort of area of suburbia that perhaps social economically is kind of considered quite wealthy? Is that more or less value, or how do you weight it when you're taking on a sort of an apprentice? Midland Heart, they took on their apprenticeship sort of kickstart a few years ago, and their recruitment ground was the underpass of Five Ways Roundabout. They didn't want to go to the job centre. They didn't want the people that could complete the application form beautifully. They went and actually talked to young people who were sleeping on the streets, and that's where it. And how do you say that? Well, they're both apprenticeships. How is one more valuable than the other? So really, really interesting, and perhaps the sort of social impact is the topic for another conversation, to talk you through perhaps how we look at social impact as we go through the accreditation process, if that would be a useful thing to do as a follow-up.
I think if you're going to put it on YouTube, it'd be a good idea to talk about that, because it's one of the hardest things to do.
Okay, all right, thank you, Patricia, for that. Sanawar, just maybe just a little hand over to you for any reflections, or a sort of a final thanks to everybody for attending and coming on and joining us today.
First of all, thank you for inviting me. This is the first, first one I attended, and very much enjoyed the colleagues and their reflections. And I'll be happy to join in future ones.
Oh,
I
thank
regularly
you.
get update by email from you.
Mm.
That's very good. So
Lovely.
Thank you very much indeed.
Perfect. Well, we've enjoyed having you with us today, and I know that there's that ongoing conversation with Lucy, and in terms of the university, the HEI sort of network that we have developed. We also have a women's sort of network as well. So if anybody is interested in joining that, then please do drop me a line, and we will look forward to seeing you. I hope at perhaps another coffee morning that we can host very soon.
Thank you.
And I think we've got a great idea for a sort of a broad topic there from you, Patricia. So thank you very much. I wish you an amazing day, and just, you know, a little reminder, we can all do those small actions that actually have big impacts, and I think that is really key in what social enterprise and social entrepreneurs are all about. So go make some big impact today with a small action.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you everybody, and well done, Sally.
Thank you.
Okay.